I showed up to Christmas with a gift I thought would matter. It was a plain white envelope. No bow, no card, just 3 months of rent in crisp paperclip stacks. I had taken the time to pull the cash, organize it neatly, and seal it tight. It felt weirdly formal, but I figured maybe that would drive the point home I see you struggling. I've got you. My younger brother Leo opened it like it was another card from Grandma. He peeled it open with zero urgency, like he already knew it wasn't worth the effort. When the cash fell out, his face barely twitched. He just smirked, held it up like a joke prop, and said, "Guess this is what guilt money looks like when you're the family disappointment." The room erupted, like full-on sitcom laughter. My dad actually slapped the arm of the couch like he was in a live studio audience. My mom let out a high-pitched giggle and said something like, "Oh, Leo, stop it!" And my Aunt Nora wheezed so hard she needed her inhaler. And me, I just stood there holding an empty coffee mug and thinking, why do I keep showing up? No one said thank you. Not even a quiet, "This helps," just laughs, like $2 $400 falls out of the sky for everyone. I didn't get mad, I didn't cry. I just reached over, pulled the envelope out of Leo's hand, and slid it back into my coat pocket. "Good to know," I said. And the room went dead silent. No yelling, no tantrum, just those 3 words. But something shifted. Like everyone realized all at once that I wasn't playing the game anymore. I grabbed my coat, started pulling it on. First to speak was my mom, Miles. "Come on. It was just a joke. Don't ruin Christmas." Then Dad chimed in, fake casual, "He didn't mean anything by it. Sit down, let's eat." The chorus followed, "You know how Leo is. Let's not make this bigger than it is." But the thing is, it was big. They just didn't know it yet. What they didn't see was the fact that I'd been quietly covering their rent electric bills and Leo's bounced debit card charges for almost 2 years. Every unexpected emergency somehow landed in my lap. My dad's pinched nerve, Mom's consulting career transition, Leo's mental health break. I just kept paying wiring Venmoing like a walking ATM with a sense of familial guilt. Amanda, my girlfriend, was spending the holidays with her parents in Maine. I could have gone with her. But no, I stayed. I stayed to be the responsible one, the fixer, the buffer between their chaos and actual consequences. That day I stopped. I turned back to them and said, "Starting next month, I'm done, Leo. Leo, you'll have to figure out how to cover rent on your own. I'm not playing banker anymore." Boom! That's when the yelling really started. "You're being dramatic. You'll regret this." It was a joke, grow a thicker skin. I didn't respond, didn't justify. I just walked out. Left the front door open behind me and let the cold air speak for me. The fallout came fast. By the next morning, my phone was a war zone, missed calls, guilt-drenched voice notes, and long-winded texts from my mom. "You embarrassed your brother on Christmas. This family has been through a lot. You've always been the dependable one." Not once did she mention the envelope, or the fact that Leo called me irrelevant to my face. By day 2, the tone shifted. "Your father's trying to be the bigger man. Don't shut him out." So I went to dinner. I shouldn't have, but I did. I figured I'd let them talk so I could say my piece and close the book cleanly. Leo didn't even look up from his phone. Mom tried to play hostess like this was some kind of Norman Rockwell redo. She actually brought out cloth napkins like that would wipe away 2 years of dependency. Dad tried small talk about Bitcoin, which would have been hilarious if I hadn't just paid their internet bill that same morning. After dinner, he got serious. "Listen," he said. "We know things got out of hand. Money complicates things." Then came the ask. Not an apology, a pitch. "If you could just help us get through January, I've got a job lead. Leo's looking at some online courses. It's just bad timing right now." And that's when I knew. They still didn't get it. I laid it out for them calmly, clearly, that this wasn't about one envelope, that I'd been floating their lives for 2 years while getting laughed at like some naive donor, that I'd been treated like a safety net they could fall on and joke about at the same time. Leo finally looked up and mumbled, "Nobody asked you to." I laughed once, that bitter kind of laugh you save for the moment you realize you've been the fool in your own story. I got up, put my key on the hallway table, and told them they had 30 days. Mom started crying. Dad told me I was being harsh. Leo went right back to scrolling. I didn't say goodbye. That weekend I got a text. "Rent's due in 5 days. Please send what you can." I sent $1, caption "more than I can afford." And just like that, I was out. The first week was quiet, too quiet. No passive-aggressive texts, no accidental missed calls, no guilt-laced group chats about how family is all we have. I should have been relieved. Instead, I was just suspicious. Because my family doesn't go silent, they reload. Then right on cue came the knock. It was a Thursday night, almost 8:00 p.m. Cold, wind sharp enough to slice your ears. I was midway through folding laundry when I heard it 3 slow knocks on my apartment door. Not urgent, not polite, just entitled. I opened it and there he was. My father, standing there in a windbreaker like it was April and not the dead of winter. No warning, no text, not even a courtesy you home, just showed up like the landlord coming to collect. "Can I come in?" he asked, already stepping past me like he didn't need permission. I didn't answer, just let the door swing shut behind him and leaned against the wall. He didn't sit. He paced a little, like he was trying to find the right words. Then he stopped near the kitchen counter and said, "We need to talk. It's serious." Of course it was. They were 2 months behind on the mortgage. Final notice on the door that morning, foreclosure incoming, the number they needed, $8,000. I didn't flinch, just crossed my arms and asked, "Where's Leo?" He hesitated, then looked down at the floor. In his room, he said, "Playing something, I don't know." I almost laughed. Of course. Why face a crumbling roof when you can escape to pixelated ones? Then the flood came, justifications, excuses, desperation dressed up as logic. "I've been looking for work. The disability case is still pending. Your mother's not sleeping. Leo's going through something, but he's got plans. And finally, if we lose the house, it'll break your mom. I'm just saying, if there's anything you can do." I didn't shout. I didn't throw anything. I just looked at him and said, "No." His eyebrows lifted like he didn't understand the word. Not $8,000, not 800, not even 8. He blinked, silent, processing. Then he asked it. "So you're just gonna let your family drown?" I stepped in closer, not threatening, just steady. I didn't let anyone drown. I was the life raft. You just never learned how to swim. He didn't respond, not right away. Just stood there in his too thin jacket, face flushed from cold and maybe shame. Then came the final dagger. "I should have known you'd turn your back when things got hard." I opened the door. "You should go." He didn't argue, just walked out. No goodbye, no last plea, just cold air and quiet footsteps down the hallway. The next day, my phone lit up with a family group text from my mom, a rare event. "Hi, family. We're in a bit of a crisis and trying to raise funds to save the house. Anything helps. God bless you all." Attached was a blurry photo of their front porch and a GoFundMe link. Goal, $8,000. No mention of how they got there. No responsibility. No mention of Leo. Just vague hardship and a digital tin cup. Some of the cousins chipped in with $50, a few aunts with $100. There were comments too. "Praying for you. Sending love." But no one asked the obvious. Why wasn't the 23-year-old in the basement contributing anything but noise? I didn't reply, didn't donate, didn't even click the link. 3 days later, Leo finally texted. "Hey, things are bad. I'm selling my PC. Can you help cover the rest? You'll get it back. Promise." No apology. No, I messed up. Just an IOU from someone who'd never repaid a cent. I replied with one word. "No." The response came fast. "Wow, so you're really just gonna let us lose the house?" I didn't answer. What was there to say? That every dollar I'd ever given came back in mockery. That the Christmas envelope was just the last laugh in a long-running joke I'd finally stopped laughing at. No, I was done. That weekend, Amanda and I went to her cousin's birthday dinner. I hadn't even met half the people there, but somehow I felt more relaxed at that table than I ever had in my own childhood home. There was no pressure to explain myself, no backhanded compliments, no one pulling me aside to talk numbers. Just warm food, dumb jokes, and people asking about my favorite books. Later that night, Amanda's mom pulled me aside in the kitchen while we were helping clean up. "You're good for her," she said, folding a dish towel. "You keep her grounded. That's rare." I didn't know what to say, just nodded, smiled, said thank you. It hit me harder than I expected. Because for the first time, someone noticed what I brought to the table without asking what I could pay for it. Then came another text from Leo. This time a screenshot of a TV. Flat screen, $399 on sale. Beneath it you could help. It's not a lot for someone like you. That was the one that made me laugh. I sent water with the caption "still too much." No reply. That was the last time I heard from him. By mid-February, the silence felt real. Not like a pause, like an ending. No more GoFundMe updates, no more guilt texts, just stillness. Amanda and I were settling into something that actually felt solid. We meal prepped. We argued about pasta sauce. We had a stupid little whiteboard for grocery notes that she doodled cows on. It was small, it was quiet, and it was mine. A missed call, just one. No voicemail, no follow-up text. Just the number sitting there at 9:46 p.m. on a Wednesday, glowing on my lock screen like it still had weight in my life. It was my mom's number. A number I knew by heart even though I hadn't dialed it in over a month. I let it sit, didn't open it, didn't delete it either. Then 2 days later, I got the second hit. A text, "Can we talk? Nothing bad, just talk." That's how they always start, soft casual, like we're neighbors chatting about the weather. Never mind the GoFundMe. Never mind the Christmas ambush. Never mind the decades of being useful, not loved. I didn't reply. I forwarded the message to Amanda instead. She read it, handed me my phone back, and said, "Your life's quieter now. Keep it that way." That one line stuck with me. Your life's quieter now, because it was. And not the lonely kind of quiet, the good kind, the peaceful kind, the kind of quiet you notice when your body stops bracing for the next explosion. What my family never understood was that I wasn't punishing them. I wasn't out for revenge. I wasn't trying to teach a lesson. I was just done. They thought silence meant conflict. But for me, silence finally meant breathing. No more wiring money I didn't really have. No more favor requests disguised as jokes. No more showing up just to be the one left standing when everything else fell apart. And the strangest thing, nobody followed up. There were no long emotional paragraphs. No apology voice notes, not even a passive-aggressive meme. Just nothing. March came in quietly. Amanda and I were deep into a new rhythm. Grocery runs on Saturdays, game nights with her friends on Fridays. Little things, solid things, things I didn't have to earn or pay for. And then one afternoon, her dad called. "Hey, grilling at our place this weekend. Want to come early and help set up?" It wasn't a big deal, just burgers and paper plates. But the way he said it, casual, trusting it, felt like I'd been drafted into something real. I got there early. He handed me the tongs without hesitation, like I'd been doing this for years. Halfway through flipping bratwursts, Amanda leaned over and whispered, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah." And for the first time in years, I meant it without hesitation. Then came the last gasp, a message from my mom. No context, no pleasantries, just a question. "Can you help us get a new TV? Jake's been really down lately. $400 should be enough." I stared at it for a full minute, not even shocked, just tired. I sent $1 caption, "Tell him to pick up a book." That was it. No reply, no argument, no fake politeness. And that was the last time I ever heard from them. By late March, the quiet had turned from strange to sacred. There were no more emergencies, no more surprise visits, no strings pulling me back into the mess I'd finally cut loose. Amanda and I spent a weekend at her brother's house helping paint a nursery. Her sister-in-law brought out snacks and old-school jazz, and we painted until the sun dipped below the windows. It was just a normal Saturday, but halfway through I realized something. This felt like family. Nobody tried to guilt me. Nobody measured my worth in favors. They just let me be. That night I got one more message. Not from my mom, not from Jake. Just an unknown number. "Saw you with Amanda's family. Real cozy over there, forgot about us already." I didn't even finish reading it before hitting delete. No response, no reaction, not worth the breath. Meanwhile, Amanda's family kept showing up in small ways that somehow meant everything. Her mom started asking me to bring a dish to family potlucks. Her little cousin asked if I'd teach him to drive stick shift this summer. Her dad started calling me kiddo without even realizing it. Nobody asked what happened with my own family. They didn't need to. They just made room. Then came a surprise. One Sunday after lunch at Amanda's parents' house, her mom pulled me aside. "We were cleaning out the attic," she said, "and found this." She handed me a small cardboard box. I opened it. Inside was a Polaroid. It was me and Amanda from our first Thanksgiving with her family. I was mid-bite, holding a paper plate like I'd just been caught raiding the dessert table. Amanda was beside me, laughing so hard her eyes were shut. I barely remembered it being taken. "We kept it," her mom said, "because that's the day we realized you fit." I blinked a few times, said thanks, And then I took the box home, placed it on our bookshelf, right next to a plant Amanda swears isn't dying. It wasn't the photo that hit me. It was the fact someone took the time to remember that moment, to see me. Not for what I gave, just for being there. Amanda's cousin Julia invited us to the lake house like it was nothing. Just a quick weekend trip. A few of the cousins. Good food, board games, maybe a little canoeing if the weather held. That kind of casual. I hesitated when she said it. Not because I didn't want to go, but because Julia had barely remembered my name the first 4 times we met. I wasn't exactly high on the guest list historically. Amanda just smiled. Apparently, fixing the grill earned you an upgrade. So we packed a bag, grabbed some marshmallows and cheap wine, and made the drive out. The lake house wasn't fancy, but it had that old family soul. Faded wooden porch, screen door that slapped shut, a dock that creaked under your weight. Inside, the fireplace smelled like a memory. It was early spring, the air still holding on to its chill, but that weekend felt like a warm pocket in the middle of everything. No tension, no performance, just people. Laughing, passing chips, arguing about who actually won Uno. I didn't expect anything deeper than that. Until Friday night when Julia's husband Brian pulled me aside. "Hey," he said, beer in hand. "Can I ask you something?" I nodded, thinking it was going to be something light. He surprised me. "I run ops at a small tech firm, nothing flashy, but we're hiring a project manager. Amanda mentioned you've got an IT background. No pressure, just, if you're open to it, I'd like to talk more." I blinked, not because of the offer, but because of the way he said it. Respectfully, direct, like I was a person with something valuable to offer. I hadn't felt that in a long time. We sat on the back porch for almost an hour after that, talking about team dynamics, remote systems, the pain of onboarding platforms that never actually work. Just shop talk, comfortable. And then he said, "You're not on LinkedIn, which is weird, but people remember how you make them feel. That counts more." The next morning, he handed me a folder. "Details if you're interested. We don't need superstars, just people who don't drop the ball." That Sunday, I sat out on the dock before we left, feet dangling over the water. Amanda walked up, tucked herself next to me, and leaned her head on my shoulder. "You okay?" she asked, voice low. I nodded. Just processing, because honestly, it felt like theft. Not the job, not the opportunity, the peace. Like I had stumbled into a life that wasn't mine, and everyone was too kind to say anything. Like I was living on borrowed time, surrounded by people who didn't know the version of me that used to drive an hour just to fix someone else's clogged sink and leave without a thank you. Amanda didn't say anything back. She just reached for my hand and held it. No questions, no pressure. And I stayed there staring at the lake, wondering how long it takes for something to feel like it's really yours. I took the job. Brian emailed me the onboarding forms Monday morning. The salary was better than anything I'd made before. Less travel, real flexibility. A team that didn't treat burnout like a badge of honor. I signed everything before lunch. I didn't tell Amanda right away. I wanted to sit with it for a minute. Let it feel real first. But word got out fast. Her mom heard it from Amanda's aunt, who heard it from Julia, who heard it from Brian. By Thursday, Amanda's dad was grilling ribs to celebrate and pulled out a bottle of wine he usually reserved for Christmas. Halfway through dinner, he raised a glass. "To Miles," he said, "for knowing when to stay in a fight and when to walk away." Everyone toasted, even Amanda's little cousin who didn't really know what was going on. I just said thanks. No big speech, no awkward deflection. Just thanks. That night back at our place, I saw it. A missed call, same number. My mom. This time she left a voicemail. "Your cousin said you got a new job. I'm glad to hear that. I hope you're happy. We're still here if you want to come back." Come back. As if I had just stepped outside for air. As if nothing had changed. As if Christmas had been a weird blip that could be reset with a phone call and a warm tone. She didn't say sorry. Didn't say she understood. Just said I could return. Like I was a checked-out library book waiting to be reshelved. I didn't respond. Didn't save the message. Just hit delete. The next hit came from Leo. A screenshot. "Best Buy. A flat screen TV on sale. $399. Underneath, you could help you know. $400 isn't a lot to someone like you." No context, no greeting, no sign that anything between us had changed. I stared at it for 5 seconds, then sent him one caption, "Still too much." No reply, no follow-up. That was the last time I heard from him. That weekend, Amanda and I went back to the lake house. Just us this time. No plans, no schedule. She brought books. I brought charcoal and meat. We grilled on the back deck, drank cheap beer, and listened to the water lap the shore. We played cards, argued about who shuffled better, watched the stars come out one by one. It felt like something out of a life I didn't know I was allowed to want. Later that night, sitting by the fire, Amanda pulled the blanket over her knees and asked me softly, "Do you miss them?" I thought about it longer than I expected to. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because I finally understood what she was really asking. I said I miss who I hoped they'd be, but that version of them didn't exist. I just got too good at pretending they did. She nodded once. Good. Then she stood up, kissed my cheek, and went inside. I stayed by the fire a little longer, let the wind wrap around me. Then I pulled out my phone, opened the old family thread. Every text, every contact, every missed call I had left unread but saved just in case. I deleted them all, not out of anger, just clarity. There's a line you cross when you stop explaining yourself. When you stop hoping they'll get it. When you finally accept that peace isn't something they give you, it's something you choose. And that night I chose it. Spring settled in quietly. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel like absence but arrival. Amanda and I had our little routines by then. Morning coffee with almond milk she hated but kept buying for me. Grocery runs where we argued over the best pancake mix. Sunday strolls through the farmer's market where she picked flowers and I picked fruit like I actually knew what I was doing. Life wasn't loud, but it was full. Then came the baby shower. Amanda's cousin Hannah was expecting, and her mom was hosting the whole thing. We were at their place early helping fold chairs and hang pastel streamers when Amanda's mom handed me a clipboard. Here, she said like it was the most normal thing in the world. Can you grab these from the store? A list, grocery items, napkins, a specific brand of sparkling water. No discussion, no explanation, just trust that I'd get it done. It hit me mid-aisle. At the store I was part of the chain now. Not a guest, not an extra set of hands, just someone counted on. And not because I owed them, not because they couldn't do it themselves, but because they wanted me there. After the party, Amanda's dad and I stayed back to fold up tables and stack folding chairs. He watched me for a second, then said, "You handle yourself well. I've seen people fold under a lot less." He didn't say what he meant, didn't have to. It stuck with me the rest of the night. Because the truth is, I had folded before, so many times I lost count. But lately, I was learning something new. You don't have to bend to be kind. You don't have to break to belong. Later that week, I made the mistake of scrolling through old messages again. Not because I missed them, not really. I think I just wanted to remember how it used to feel to always be waiting, always hoping for a different tone, a softer response, a thank you that never came. It wasn't nostalgia, it was recognition. Like rewatching footage of a version of yourself you barely recognize now. So I did something I hadn't done before. I deleted the entire thread, the saved voicemails, the half-written drafts I never sent, the contact cards still sitting in my favorites like old trophies. Gone. No fanfare, no big emotional speech, just clean space. That weekend, Amanda and I were eating tacos from our favorite spot, Messy Spicy Perfect. When she said, "By the way, Julia invited us back to the lake house next month," I raised an eyebrow. Julia, the same one who forgot I existed until I fixed her grill. She laughed. "Yeah. Apparently now you're Miles who's good with tools and keeps the fire pit going." That's a promotion, a dramatic one. We clinked sodas over it and didn't talk about how strange it felt to be wanted again, but this time for who I actually was. Friday at the lake house, I got pulled aside by Brian again. This time it wasn't just a social catch-up. He asked me how the job was going. I told him it felt like the first place I wasn't carrying someone else's weight. He nodded. Then he said something I didn't expect. "We've got another opening coming up. Bigger project. Bit more pressure, but it comes with options, stock bonuses, the works. You've made a strong impression." I stared at him for a beat. "You're offering me a promotion." He shrugged. "I'm offering you a lane. You've been earning it quietly. Might be time to take it loud." Sunday morning, I sat at the end of the dock again. Same spot as before. This time, I didn't feel like a visitor. I felt placed, like the furniture of a life I was finally building. Amanda joined me, no words at first, just her presence. Eventually, she said, "You look different. Good different or pre-breakdown different. Solid." That word hit me harder than I thought it would, because I wasn't just stable. I was solid. There's a difference. That night we got back to our apartment. I showered. Changed into a hoodie that smelled like campfire smoke and pine. Checked my phone. 1 missed call. My mom again. No voicemail this time, just the call. An hour later, a text. I heard you got promoted. Glad to hear it. You still have family, you know. Don't shut us out forever. Forever. They always talk like it's a punishment. Like distance is some vendetta. They never talk about what it took to get that far. I didn't reply. Just stared at the screen until it went dim. Mid-April, I came home to find Amanda on the couch laughing at some baking fail compilation. She looked up as I walked in and said, "You got a package." On the kitchen counter, a small brown box. No return address. I opened it. Inside, an old photo, a printed one, not digital. It was from maybe 10 years ago, one of the last family Christmases before everything started unraveling. I was younger, obviously, holding a mug. Leo was beside me. My mom in the background. My dad blurry on the edge. I turned it over. Nothing written on the back. No note in the box. Just that photo. Like a ghost trying to remind me of a version of us that never really existed the way I wanted it to. Amanda walked over, saw the photo, and said, "You okay?" I nodded, yeah, then quietly slid the photo into a drawer I never open. Because memory doesn't always deserve display. The next morning, I got a text from Jake. One line. "Can I crash on your couch for a while? Things at home are a mess." That was it. No hello, no explanation. No apology. I stared at it for longer than I want to admit. Then typed back, "Not a chance. Try being useful for once." And hit send. No guilt, no second guessing. May started quiet. The kind of quiet you don't trust at first. Like something's waiting just out of view, ready to yank you back in. But nothing came. No new voicemails, no emergency texts, not even a "can you talk" from my mom. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't bracing. I was just living. The GoFundMe for the house was still up. I checked it once out of curiosity, maybe twice. 740. That's where it stalled out. No new donations, no big rescue. Just a threadbare comment section full of neighbors from the old block, and my mom's coworkers saying things like, "We're praying for you and hang in there." No one asked why Leo wasn't helping. No one asked why the 23-year-old with a Waller $200 gaming chair and $300 sneakers wasn't selling his things. No one asked about me either, not once. It was like I had been erased, and weirdly, I was okay with that. Because sometimes peace doesn't come from being remembered. It comes from finally letting go of the version of yourself that always needed to be seen. That weekend, Amanda and I went back to the lake house. No cousins, no big invite list. Just us. She packed books. I packed charcoal and steaks. We brought extra socks, a beat-up deck of cards, and exactly 0 plans. We swam when the sun came out, sat in silence when it didn't, played Go Fish like it was a real competition. And at night, we sat by the fire, sharing a blanket and laughing about absolutely nothing. On Saturday night, as the stars came out and the wind picked up, Amanda looked at me and asked a question I hadn't heard in a while. "Do you miss them?" This time I didn't need to think. I miss who I thought they were. I miss what I wanted them to be, but not who they actually are. Not who they showed me over and over they've chosen to be. She nodded, just once. No need to unpack it. Some truths don't need a discussion. They just need room to breathe. After she went to bed, I stayed by the fire. Let the heat warm my legs. Let the silence wrap around me. Then I pulled out my phone. Opened the last few saved threads from back when I still believed things might turn around. One from my mom, one from Leo. A few generic family messages from birthdays and holidays that had all blurred together. And I deleted them, all of them. Every message, every saved contact, every thread I'd once scrolled through at 3 a.m., hoping I'd miss something, some small apology, some hidden affection. Gone. Not because I was angry, but because I finally knew I wasn't waiting anymore. The next week, Amanda's mom invited us over for lunch. Just a regular Sunday, sandwiches and lemonade in the backyard. Midway through, she disappeared inside. A few minutes later, she came back with a small box, no wrapping, no note, just a plain cardboard square. "We found this while cleaning the attic," she said. "Thought you might want it." Inside was a Polaroid. Me and Amanda, our first Thanksgiving together. I was caught mid-bite holding a paper plate piled high with stuffing and pie. Amanda was next to me laughing so hard her eyes were nearly closed. I barely remembered it being taken. Amanda's mom smiled. "We kept it," she said, "because that was the day we realized you fit in." I didn't say anything for a moment, because I felt it in my chest before I could form words. Not because of the picture, but because someone took the time to remember, to notice a moment I didn't even think mattered and hold on to it like proof that I did. I put the box on the shelf in our living room, right next to the little succulent Amanda insists isn't dead. It sits there now, quiet, simple, a reminder that some families find you, not with promises, not with guilt, but with presence, with effort, with love that doesn't need a receipt. A few days later, I got one last message, this time from my mom. No hello, no update, just one line. Jake's been really down. Our TV finally broke. $400 would be enough, please. I stared at it for a while, not because I was tempted, but because I realized she still didn't get it. Still thought money was the bridge back. Still thought love was something you could invoice. So I sent her one caption, tell Jake to pick up a book. No reply, not even a read receipt. And that was it. That was the last message I ever got from any of them. Summer rolled in soft. Amanda started leaving grocery lists with doodles. I started looking forward to errands. Her dad asked me to help him build a workbench in the garage. Her little cousin asked if I'd teach him to parallel park. Her family never asked about mine. They didn't need the story. They just gave me space and filled it with kindness. There's no dramatic ending here. No big confrontation. No surprise phone call with a tearful apology. Just life. Moving forward, slowly, steadily, the kind you build, not beg for. Sometimes I still think about that Christmas. Not in the way I used to. Not with anger or pain, but like someone remembering a road they used to take and finally found a better one. There's a kind of healing that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with music or fireworks. It just grows quietly in the background, until one day you look around and realize you're no longer waiting for the apology that never came. You're no longer carrying the version of yourself who begged for love with your wallet. You're just here, whole, undiscounted, chosen, not for what you give, but for who you stayed long enough to become. Story 2 at the family's gift-giving ceremony. I gave a note to my sister. To ensure she graduated on time, I covered the cost of her last semester. He believes that money can compensate for the fact that we don't need him, she replied after reading it and taking a look around. Everyone in the room chuckled. I responded, I suppose you'll have time off next spring, and retracted the letter. She started weeping in the hallway 15 minutes later. My parents' faces became white. We are family, though. I'm constantly expected to do something pricey by my sister. Jewelry designer nonsense. Money. If she is truly lazy at acting. I got her something better this year. At least I believed I did. When it was my turn to distribute presents, I approached Megan and gave her a simple white envelope. No ribbon, no packaging. It only had her name written in black ink. As I sat back down, she appeared perplexed, then suspicious. She opened it, took out the letter, and read it slowly once more. It contained a one-paragraph message I had written outlining how I had discovered she was $300 short on tuition, how she had already missed her first spring semester payment, and how I had settled the whole debt, in order for her to graduate on schedule. I even attached a copy of the transaction and her university's confirmation. After finishing her book, she looked up to find the room completely silent. Then she chuckled. Not a shaky chuckle. No appreciative chuckle. A sarcastic, unpleasant chuckle. He believes that money can compensate for his lack of need for us. She continued, holding out the letter as if it were a joke. Everyone joined in her laughter. In fact, my dad gave a clap. Mom put her hand over her lips, laughing so hard that my eyes wet. As though Megan had just won the round, even Grandma Susan gave a tiny snort. I said nothing at all. I simply gazed at them all. Then, with composure, I stretched out, bent forward, and retrieved the letter. I suppose you'll have some free time next spring, I remarked. The room flipped at that very instant. The giggling ceased. My sister's grin became cold. As if someone had pulled a rug out from under him, my dad's expression changed. I didn't hear my mother whispering something. Megan merely looked at me as if she was unable to comprehend what had just transpired. I went along the hallway on my way to the front entrance 15 minutes later. Megan was sobbing as she sat on the floor. In an attempt to console her, my mother was kneeling by her. My father was pacing. The two grandparents were observing from the steps, as if they were unable to distinguish between tragedy and theater. I opened the front door. My father moved ahead of it. What are you doing in your opinion? Oh, he said. I informed him that I was going. Not after that little performance, he remarked. Christmas was spoiled by you. Behind him, my mother gave a nod. Megan yelled, Are you really simply heading out? I examined each one. The stairway, the hallway, and the false garland that was still covered in dust from the previous year. After shutting the door and removing my coat, I returned to the table and sat down. Everyone went along with it. Here's how it's going to be now, I said. No one shifted. My sister was still sniffling and red-faced, attempting to preserve what little pride she still had. My mother seemed to be torn between slapping me and crying. I wasn't giving my dad the opportunity to wind up for one of his phony moral lectures, even if he appeared to be doing so. I remained sat composed, as if I hadn't just turned the place on its head. I began with the fundamentals. I've been this family's emergency fund for the past few years, I remarked. You've all become accustomed to the notion that Kevin will fix any issues that arise whether you like to acknowledge it or not. It was corrected by Megan's tuition, groceries after Dad's job loss, repaired, a bundle of airline tickets, a new refrigerator, and a new washer. You couldn't afford to fix 2 automobiles. Repaired. I examined each one individually. Nobody argued, just blank looks. I reclined in my seat. Tonight is the last day of it. I paused for a moment. Megan's gaze lowered to her lap. Slowly, my mother shook her head. Although he knew he couldn't afford to smash another wall, my dad's jaw tensed as if he wanted to strike something. I then add everything up. And you two only have $3,000 now that we're all being honest. When you indicated you were having a difficult time last spring, I lent it to you. You said you will reimburse them within a few months. My father interrupted right away. We promised to. And we will. I gave a nod. Excellent, I hope that comes to pass. But let me tell you the truth. I've already written it off in my mind. I wasn't prepared for how hard that hit. My mother winced slightly, as if the idea of my not entrusting them with my money was more offensive than everything that had transpired throughout the evening. So you think we're thieves now? My father said. No, I said. I believe you're at ease, feeling at ease with me. Are things cozy assuming I'll be here to keep the lights on all the time? I then glanced at you and Megan. You will get employment if you choose to complete your education. Or perhaps this time Mom and Dad will assist. Like parents often do, you know. She glanced at my father, then at my mother. Nobody offered to help. I only sat and observed. At last, my mother responded, Kevin, this isn't how families operate. We don't put one another in danger. I gave a little smile. That's funny, since 5 minutes earlier you branded me selfish and laughed at me in front of both of your mothers when I retreated. Back then, I didn't witness a lot of familial loyalty. Grandma Joyce, who had remained silent the entire time, finally spoke out. He's right, you know, she remarked, glancing directly at my mother. I observed your collective laughter. I witnessed your actions. Additionally, you never paid back the money you borrowed from me, so don't think I forgot. Everybody's heads turned. My mother's face became pale. Grandma Susan then added her voice. I've always felt that you overindulged Megan. And now look, she sobbed and bit the hand that fed her. You could feel the ground shaking as it stopped. The 2 matriarchs had stopped playing. With greater caution, my father got back up. So what he said this time? You're done with us already, no? I've had enough of being exploited. He referred to me as self-centered. I shrugged. If advocating for myself is selfish, then I suppose I am. However, you are free to use your own judgment if you are uncomfortable with these new terms. And don't contact me the next time you need assistance. At long last, Megan spoke out. She promised to get employment. She sounded quite unhappy about it, as if working in retail were beneath her. My mother muttered that she was attempting to assist. My father remained silent. I got up, made my way to the kitchen, and poured a drink. Nobody trailed behind. Nobody spoke. However, I knew this was not the end. By no means. Days passed before I heard from them. Don't apologize. No justification. Nothing but quiet, as if they were hoping. I would crawl back and act as though it never occurred if they ignored the aftermath long enough. My mother sent the first message. 5 words. I hope you feel proud of who you are." That was it. Not a query. Not even an essay that was passive-aggressive as she generally imagines. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. She had no intention of making amends. She wasn't looking me in the eye when she took a swing. After then, my phone remained silent. Megan went dark. My father, the master of acting as though nothing is amiss, didn't recognize me at all and stayed true to the brand. They must have believed that this might yet be saved, that I'd cooled off, realized how cruel I was, and as always, be there with my money at the next Sunday dinner or birthday. They weren't prepared for me to become someone who didn't want to or need them. Grandma Joyce called a week later. She didn't dance around it or inquire how I was. "We're eating lunch," she said. "I'll come get you." She appeared as though she had been anticipating this day since Thanksgiving, and she arrived on schedule. She stated, "Your parents are in a mess and they don't want you to know," as soon as we sat down at a cafe close to my apartment. It seemed like things had been falling apart quickly. My mother had 2 credit card debts. My dad was no longer doing freelance work. Since her transcript still indicated a financial hold, Megan had been turned down for every internship she applied for and had kept the fact that she was about to be fired a secret. The finest aspect. As though they had a strategy, they attempted to hide it all with the typical phony assurance. "They want you to return and act as though nothing occurred," Joyce added. "Eat supper, smile, and perhaps bring a present. However, their only contribution is guilt." I gave a nod, said very little. What they would do next piqued my curiosity more. "The cash machine has been disconnected now." After pausing, she continued, "Oh, and your mother has been telling folks that you're not feeling well, that you lost your temper, and that you would benefit from vacation treatment. She is portraying you as the one who is broken." I burst out laughing. "She would rather tell people that I'm unstable than acknowledge that she relied on me to raise her second child," I remarked. Joyce didn't chuckle. She seemed worn out. "They won't apologize," she claimed. "They don't want to owe you that as well, not because they don't feel bad." Then she made a statement that I still remember. "They despise the fact that you are the sole adult in that household." 3 of Megan's texts were still unopened when I arrived home that evening. "Hey," said the first. "Can we talk?" said the second. According to the third, I was hired at Lark. It's something, but it's retail. The strange off-brand clothing boutique near the mall's edge was called Lark. No one wanted to pay full price for a rhinestone hoodie, thus everything was on sale because of this. I didn't answer, even though I knew she was unhappy. My mother's message came next. "We're pleased of your responsibility 3 days later. I hope you will quickly pardon us." I also didn't respond to that. They already owed too much, and forgiveness is a deal. Then my dad emailed a strange picture. We had 5 people seated at our supper table. Just 1 chair. Empty mine. "You belong here," the caption simply stated. They wanted to play the emotional card all of a sudden. The same folks who scoffed at my attempts to assist were now behaving as though I had deserted a sinking ship, as if we had the same last name and I owed them my allegiance. The voicemail followed with Megan's voice sobbing once more. This time, however, it's different, more desperate, less theatrical. She said she was unable to pay her rent, that she hardly had enough money for petrol from her work, said she was unsure about how to balance everything and concentrate on her studies. Then she said something that caught me off guard. "I long for the good old days." I listened to it repeatedly while I stood there. Yes, I also miss the way things used to be. Back when she expressed gratitude. My parents used to remember who was responsible for paying for their roof. However, those times were over, and they were all unaware of how deeply this would pierce. For 3 days, the voicemails remained in my mailbox. I didn't remove it, didn't reply, simply left it hanging there like a picture from a bygone era that I no longer really believed to exist. In reality, there was never a normal. But Megan wanted everything to return to normal. I was the only one paying for the quiet. Then my mother appeared at my door without warning. She didn't make a phone call. Like a delivery woman, she buzzed the building. I was interested, but I nearly didn't open it. In person, she appeared smaller, as if the circumstances had worn her down. That look was still there, as if she were going to offer something insightful. Additionally, if she entered without asking, she may say, "We need to talk." Talk, I said. Megan was drowning, she told me, that the work was insufficient, that her academic performance was lacking. Now she couldn't register for finals without paying the financial office. She persisted in attempting to bring it back to her family, highlighting their love and pride for me. I gave her space to speak. I then informed her of the cost. "Do you need assistance?" "All right. However, I'm no longer responsible for the errors of others. I'm not her parent. You two are." When she didn't answer, I continued. "Do you want Megan to get her degree? Then you and your father work things out. Make a sale. Postpone your weekend vacations. Don't go to your anniversary meal. Use your imagination." She began to speak most likely about how difficult their lives were. "I also deducted the $3,000 you owe me. By the end of the year, I will require that." She looked as if I had smacked her. I continued. "I'm not pretending anymore, but I know you won't have it. I'll remember just how much this family values me each time you avoid it." She broke down in tears and stated that I was punishing them all for a single moment of amusement, which wasn't fair. "No," I said, "I'm punishing you for 10 years of acting as though I was to blame for your financial difficulties." She didn't say anything more before leaving. Megan phoned a week later. Nor voicemail nor text. She did make a call. She acknowledged that she didn't anticipate assistance and that she only wanted me to know that she had secured a second job after school instructing children and was in contact with financial aid. Said that all she was requesting was another opportunity to be a better sister, not money. No, I didn't say. I also didn't say no. "We'll see," I told her. Then an odd thing occurred. I was invited over by Grandma Joyce. She was seated in her living room with an overly contented smile when I arrived. I was given a folder by her. Printouts, screenshots of previous emails, receipts, and text messages from the previous 5 years were all contained there. Everything was evidence of the money I had spent on my family, the presents, the loans, the fixes, a whole dossier. "What is this?" I asked. "Proof in the event that they attempt to alter history," she added. She then informed me that Grandma Suzanne had chosen to cut the cord in her own way. She was secretly amending her will to increase the amount going to me and decrease the amount going to my parents. I never requested it. It wasn't what I wanted. However, it was taking place. "We're sick of seeing you used," Joyce murmured, leaning back. "We will change if they don't want to." It wasn't retaliation. It wasn't a win. It was justice, and it had only just begun. I had adjusted to the silence by the middle of February. I won't be getting sporadic calls from my mother asking me to perform this one thing. There were no texts from my dad asking how I was doing while he was actually about to give me another favor. Don't make up crises. Don't feel guilty. I've never had a more tranquil start to a year. Since the voicemail, Megan hadn't sent a message. She was wearing the black business t-shirt and folding sweatshirts that no one ever buys. And I once caught a glimpse of her by chance when she was working behind the counter. She failed to notice me. Or perhaps she did. I simply didn't want to handle it. The second time I saw her, she was carrying a plastic container filled with what appeared to be art supplies across the parking lot of a tutoring center. She appeared worn out, but not in a theatrical sense, extremely exhausted. It was as though life had finally caught up with her. She was at work. She was coping with it. That section. I appreciated at least. Then one evening at approximately 9 o'clock, my dad texted me, "You don't really need us, do you?" No context, no punctuation. For several minutes, I gazed at it. Since that wasn't a question, I didn't respond. He eventually realized that I had outgrown that family and that their control was no longer effective, that they claimed to adore me once I left the system they had created and discovered anarchy. Meanwhile, in the background, things were changing. Grandma Susan called to confirm that my address had been updated while she completed some papers. That meant something to me. She meant what she had stated the last time. Grandma Joyce had also gone to Calder with my mom, so I didn't press her. She apparently confronted her about the entire tale of Kevin's instability. The family was being pushed about by her. I warned her that she would begin revising the story at every family get-together going forward if she didn't stop. I nearly wished I could have attended that event. Then Joyce called again. "Grandma Susan was having supper," she said. "Just a little family. You ought to attend." She said, "The time has come." "Who would be there?" I asked. She made no hesitation. "Everyone." I almost refused. My entire being was prepared to burn that final bridge and leave them in the ashes. However, the way she phrased it gave me the impression that this had nothing to do with peace. Power was at issue here, about showing them that I was no longer in need of shouting to be heard. So I went. Susan's home had the similar appearance. 5 Christmases ago, the same wreath, candles with the same aroma. The door was opened by my mother. She took a while to say hello. She simply gave me a look that said she wasn't sure how things would turn out. Then she moved out of the way so I could enter. As if he had forgotten all that had transpired, my dad was already seated at the table. Megan was also present with her hair pulled back and her eyes hardly lifted from her glass of water. One of them initiated contact. It was weird at dinner. Joyce used casual conversation about some cousins to try to diffuse the situation. "Sweetheart, no one gave a damn. Everybody was waiting." The head of the table, Grandma Susan, then turned to Megan and said, "How is work going?" Megan said, exhausted, looking up. Then it became quieter. "However I'm doing it, I'm making the payment. Gradually." She gave me a single look, not requesting anything. A few minutes later, my mother said simply, acknowledging. "They'd been thinking about what occurred a lot," she added. And perhaps they'd chuckle because they didn't know how to respond to such a cry out. She used phrases like moving forward, appreciating, and reflecting. She didn't apologize. "We know we owe you," my dad added. "We're working on it." Although he didn't say the $3,000 by name, we both understood what he meant. I remained silent. Nothing else could be said. "This is your chance to start anew," Susan remarked, leaning forward and resting her elbows on the table. "And don't expect either of us if you make a mistake." She gave Joyce a glance. "To shield you from it." Like children being reprimanded after supper, they nodded. Megan gave me an envelope while I was putting on my coat. I arched an eyebrow. It wasn't money she claimed. There was a card with handwriting on plain cardboard that had not been purchased from a store. It said, "I realize I made a mistake. I can't take back the words I uttered. I hurled it in your face because you gave me more than I deserved. I'm not requesting assistance. All I want is to be redeemed as your sister. I apologize." No signature was present, only her. I remained silent. I simply left. I have the envelope. We didn't get better, not even close. The hierarchy, however, was different. I was no longer their safety net. Now I was something different. As if weary of winter, spring also arrived early to remind them. The temperature rose. It all smelled of thawing dirt and damp pavement. And people began acting as though my family hadn't completely collapsed at the beginning of the year. However, I did recall. I recalled everything. More significantly, when I eventually quit bearing their burden, I was able to recall who they were. Megan managed to get by this semester. Grandma Joyce didn't message me about it, but she kept me updated after all of her classes started a part-time job that paid well and required a 90-minute travel each way. I kept quiet around her. I saw her once outside the bus stop close to my house, but not at that time. Half drowsy, she stood among shabby apartments clutching a Tupperware container as if it were her last item. She seems to have finally realized what it means to stand up for what you believe in. I failed to wave. I simply watched her leave in silence. The problem with folks who have coasted their entire lives is that they either change or break down when things get difficult. Megan remained composed. She endured pain, yet she remained strong. To me, that was more important than ever receiving an apology. But nothing changed with my folks. The $3,000 they owed me turned into this unacknowledged ghost. They avoided discussing it as if it were a taboo subject. We're working on it, though. No, we still remember. Not even a hollow pledge to deter me. It seemed as though they thought it would vanish if they never spoke it again. I could have mentioned it, but I chose not to. How long they pretended to be playing the long game was what I wanted to witness, but I was too. Rather, my father continued to email me links to items he believed I would find interesting. My mother experimented with recipes, old family pictures, and nostalgia. Comments about it used to appeal to me. It was a terrific time. On the surface, everything seemed innocuous, but I understood what it was. It was money, attempting to repair anything without covering the costs of the harm. Megan handed me that card, the one when she apologized. It's still with me. It's in the drawer with my auto title and passport. It wasn't about making things even so. Even though I don't read it very frequently, I haven't thrown it out either. It was her way of expressing that she had finally seen the destruction she had contributed to. Susan, meantime, carried out her resolve to reform. Joyce subsequently informed me that my mother was upset when she learned. During the family meal, she reportedly confronted Susan and attempted to shame her by asking why she was excluding her own kid. Susan just informed her that my mother had contacted me that evening since Kevin was present while you weren't. She made no explicit reference to the world, simply danced around it. I hope you don't think we've been ungrateful, they said. You still haven't reimbursed me, I said. I believed the line had dropped because she was silent for so long. We will soon, she added. She spoke too cautiously, though, as if it had been practiced. 3 months have passed since then. Not a dime has been seen by me. The money is no longer the main concern. I remember that it's about the principle. I will never forget. We now speak once in a while. Birthdays, holidays, and trivial matters. I'm kind and courteous. However, they are no longer able to close that distance. That faith. I used to gladly provide such unsaid allegiance. It's gone. Exhausted. Furthermore, I won't recreate it for them. Megan is still employed. I'm still exhausted. However, she has never requested money. She no longer regards me as the answer. I've resumed responding to her texts as a result. Although we are not near, we are gradually and really rebuilding. My parents continue to act as though nothing has changed. However, it isn't. This version of myself, the one they created, when they laughed that night, is not the one who picks up the pieces for everyone else. Thus, it never will be. No more. Story 3. I started by pulling out a card the venue deposit the fully paid photographer and $5,000 during my brother's engagement dinner. His fiancée grinned. Then loud enough for the table it was murmured, "He's working so hard to make a difference again, wow." I responded, "Let me try less," and put the card back in my coat before getting up. She received a direct call from the venue 10 minutes later. The date has been canceled, the deposit is gone. Similar to the rent. I merely gave them an envelope made of gold. Everything was within. A wedding photographer who gets paid in full. Among the state's finest. Verification of the location. A down payment on a location Riley had virtually lusted over on Instagram. And a $5,000 personal check from me, not by themselves. Tyler, my present, accepted it first and blinked as if it hadn't registered. Then, as if it were mail he hadn't requested, he handed it to her. She retrieved everything, glanced at the receipts, and raised the check. "Whoa!" Holding it between 2 fingers like a soiled napkin, she spoke. He is sincerely attempting to make a comeback. No one at the table spoke, but no one laughed either. Not my parents, who added quietly that I pay all of their bills each month, including the second mortgage, and they hadn't worked in years. Tyler sought assistance launching his supplement company, which failed after 6 weeks. I didn't get a call at 3 a.m. from Tyler, weeping because he had spent all of his money on his final credit card and equipment for a podcast that never had an episode. Not even Riley's parents, who were grinning happily across the table, as if nothing had occurred. I grabbed the envelope from her grasp and placed it back in my coat pocket. I said, "Let me try less." Then I stood up and walked away. I didn't cause any trouble. I didn't lose my temper. I left that restaurant as if I were heading to the dentist. Quiet calm, completed in the vehicle. For a while, I just sat and watched my phone buzz. After 1 and then 2 missed calls, I received a voicemail from the venue, informing me that the deposit was non-refundable and confirming the cancellation. Excellent. I didn't anticipate immediate consequences. Tyler would still be grinning and attempting to brush it off, but I knew them well enough to know. Riley would already be furious and messaging someone about my outburst over a joke. My mother would be muttering something about how sensitive I've always been. Before I departed, my dad would make sure no one had ordered anything extra by looking over the bill. I was done though, and I also knew something they didn't. Years of preparation had led them to cross a line. The envelope wasn't the beginning. When I was 16 and accepted to my first choice college, my mother advised me not to brag because Tyler hadn't yet submitted an application. They claimed it was hazardous when I first began my business, but a year later they sent me Tyler's resume. There were countless little websites, digs, and quiet times when I might be helpful, but no one ever noticed. They believe I exaggerated. They always do. When the rent wasn't paid, they would understand what it meant. When the gas bill was past due the following month. Then my mom's card was denied at the grocery store, and the bank informed her that the automated transfers had ceased, and then the calls began going to voicemail. The card I returned wasn't only a present, it served as a warning. They also didn't pay attention. Following the supper, the first 2 days were calm, too silent. Really, Tyler didn't get back to me, nor did my parents. Riley didn't even use a snarky emoji. It seemed as though they all made the decision to go into radio silence simultaneously, which could only mean one thing. Though, not to me, they were conversing with one another. It didn't bother me. I wasn't figuring out how to clean up someone else's mess for the first time in what seemed like years. I wasn't reading passive-aggressive texts requesting little favors or managing someone else's expenses. Ordered twice, I slept, and then worked again. It was nearly quiet. Day 3 then arrived. Out of habit, I answered the unfamiliar call. It was my mother. She didn't inquire about my health. I didn't begin with an apology of any kind, just jumped right in. Why would the venue be canceled? Riley liked it and you knew it. She made it obvious that she didn't like whatever I did, I said. She fell silent for a moment. Then it's like clockwork. It wasn't necessary for you to take it personally. It was only a remark. She was kidding. If she laughed, I asked. She didn't respond. Did Tyler laugh? I questioned. Nothing has changed. I said. After I gave them something none of you could buy, you all sat there and watched her attack me without saying a word. John, you're punishing everyone for a single time, she added. I said that because that annoyed me more than Riley's remark ever could. No one is being punished by me. She declared, I'm moving away from people who only appreciate me when I'm giving out money. I responded, that's not true. How recently have you given me a call just to chat? She made no attempt to think of a date. We're your family, she said. We always assumed you were aware. We were pleased with you. I ended the call. It didn't even make me feel bad. I felt sanitized. Tyler texted 2 days later. The venue was really canceled due to some ridiculous nonsense. In any case, without you, we'll figure it out. There's no use in coming. For a full minute, I gazed at the message. No explanation, no apologies. The same sense of entitlement that I had observed in him throughout our childhood, rather than continuing to act as though I was in charge of anything. I didn't respond. Then I began to hear sounds. On Facebook, my mother shared a mysterious status about disappointments that may come from the most unlikely sources. I received a text from Maya, wondering why I couldn't attend the wedding and what had occurred. She replied, I told her to ask my parents. They said that since you dislike Riley, you declined to assist. And there it was. They were running with this version of the tale. Then out of spite, I had skipped my own brother's wedding. That the fact that I disapproved of the woman he loved made me envious. I hadn't been humiliated at a dinner for giving them a present that exceeded their whole wedding budget. They didn't allow that to occur. They didn't watch. I began to retreat further, cut off my parents' auto transfers, canceled their grocery-related Amex card. I dropped out of the family phone plan. No warning, no explanation. Simply gone. They took a while to call. Pride, I suppose. But after a while, the quiet ended. I didn't answer my dad's voicemail, but I did listen to it. John, you've got your point. I hope all is well with you. You embarrassed us and wrecked the wedding. You left your family because of a little remark. You are behaving as though you are betraying your own blood. The phrase traitors stayed in my mind. He phrased it as if I would change sides in a conflict. I hadn't picked a side, though. I simply quit playing the game. A week later, the wedding took place, ceremony in the backyard, chairs that fold up. To provide space for a leased dance floor, my parents' garage was emptied out. Facebook showed it everything to me. They were smiling and were content. There was nobody at my seat. Riley's dad was the only one who spoke. He texted me 2 days following the wedding. I noticed your envelope during dinner, John, but I'm not sure what exactly transpired. I could see what was within. I just wanted to let you know. A few of us took note. I hope all is well with you. I looked at the message for a long time since it meant that the only person who truly noticed me was the one who owed me nothing. It took very little time. My mother gave me another call around 2 weeks after the wedding. It had to do with the energy bill this time. She asked if I could just cover it this month because it had quadrupled. I informed her that all automatic payments had been stopped. Probably thinking I was bluffing, she hesitated. She then inquired as to why I was acting in this way. They labeled me a traitor, I reminded her. That was simply your father being sentimental, she informed me. I told her that unless someone was finally sorry, I didn't care how emotional they were. With a sigh, she mentioned pride, forgiveness, and the struggles that families face. I informed her that accountability is necessary for forgiveness. I hung up after that. Tyler followed. A snapshot of his bank account was sent to me via text. 23.47%. No background. Only a screen grab. Another message a few hours later. Are you able to rent me? Our landlord is on our ass and Riley's boutique is doing poorly this month. I'll reimburse you. I laughed at it. I've never received payment from Tyler. Not the laptop, not the vehicle, not the last-minute flights. Nothing. I used to convince myself that helping my brother get back on his feet didn't important. It never occurred to me that he had no intention of standing on them. I didn't respond. My parents arrived at my place a few days later. They had to wait outside and use the buzzer to call since I live in a protected building. Before responding, I observed them from my window for a minute. I opened the door for them. A part of me was curious to find out how far they would go. My father spoke most of the time, informed me that Tyler was having difficulties and that they were concerned about him, that they were just scraping by after Riley took on debt for the wedding. I questioned how I was responsible for any of that. Because we are your family, my mother said. That line once more. What does that imply, I asked them, when family only works in one direction? They regarded me as though I were speaking a foreign language. I previously stated that I didn't mind assisting. Actually, I didn't. I made my purchases without complaining. However, when they made it apparent that Riley's happiness was more important than my presence and respect, the math was altered by it. Then I was surprised by something my dad said. We informed Riley's family that you were dealing with mental health concerns, he stated. You weren't at the wedding because of this. Something has to be said. I simply gave him a blink. I didn't inquire as to why. I was well aware that they need an innocent-looking tale. It would be preferable, she remarked, if people were unaware of the true circumstances. As if as a favor, my mother added. You are aware of human speech patterns. For me, it was it. I instructed them to go. You're going to regret cutting off your family, my mother warned as they stood up. I'm not cutting off my family, I said. The ones who deceived me are being cut off. Tell me if you come across any families that are still covered by it. I sat down and attempted to feel anything after they had gone. There was no sadness, no anger, perhaps. It was just a weird sort of relief. Riley's dad phoned me that weekend. He replied it was a phone call, not a text. I listened to what they had to say regarding your mental health. I apologize. I gave him my gratitude. You didn't deserve it, he said. John, even though I don't know you well, I can tell you were attempting to be kind. Riley was among those who misrepresented that. You're not the bad guy in this story, he said. Do not allow them to rewrite it in that manner. Those remarks stuck with me even though I didn't say anything. They continue to try. The missed calls and messages, by the way. Tyler is requesting assistance. My folks are attempting to have a conversation. However, once you see someone clearly, it's impossible to unsee them. The calls decreased by week 4, but other types of manipulation increased. A spreadsheet called Family Budget Breakdown was sent to me over email by my dad. Dates, totals, and a column named John next to each past due bill were all included in the list of their spending. I didn't answer. Tyler then sent me another email with a PDF file called Business Proposal. The pitch for a fitness app was clumsy. For a 30% ownership, he asked me to contribute $15,000. Said that it would help him create something genuine and restore our mutual trust. I glance at it. The majority of it consisted of keywords lifted from pictures of other applications, and an ambiguous statement that Riley will take care of branding. The desperation wasn't what got me. It was that he referred to me as a trust, financing. What trust meant in our family was another dead notion. I received a call from an unfamiliar number that week when I was at a late meeting with a customer. I choose to disregard it. Then another. Then a communication from an unidentified individual appeared. I thought you ought to be aware. A blurry picture that was obviously shot with a phone from behind a window was included. According to the angle, Tyler was standing in my parents' driveway fighting with someone. It seemed to be Riley's mother. He spat his hands out. She gestured toward him. The wedding's backyard tent was seen in the distance, partially collapsed and still in place weeks later. No explanation, no caption. 10 minutes later, there was another message. He is destroying bridges too quickly. Their loudness is drowned out by your stillness. Pay close attention. No name. I'm not sure why, but it made me uneasy, not in a fearful manner. It seemed more as though someone else had been listening the entire time. Emily, Riley's younger sister, and I met up at the grocery store that weekend. She had always been the reserved one, more intelligent than the others, and not hesitant to express it. They're collapsing without your money, she added, stopping me in the frozen aisle. Riley and Tyler argue every day. No one is buying into your parents' victimization. What prompted her to inform me, I inquired. Because I observed what transpired during supper, she said. I saw you leave. She smirked as I observed. I also noticed that your folks were just sitting there. That was a disaster. She then made a statement that stuck. People remember those who remain silent and those who go with honor. Though it wasn't much, it provided me with an odd sense of closure. It validated what I already suspected, not because I wanted Riley's family to like me. The truth was beginning to come to light. That's when the truly odd event occurred. On LinkedIn, I received a notification about a profile visit. Riley. Since the supper, it was the first digital fingerprint she had left. Not a message, only a glimpse. Tyler texted me once again the next day. Riley is contemplating leaving. Claims that I've changed. Man, we're drowning here. Don't let this ruin everything, even though I know you're angry. All of it. What precisely was he attempting to protect? My mom sent me a picture of herself and my dad at a diner the next day, along with a caption, I wish you were here, miss. Without you, it's not the same. However, I had seen the picture's timestamp. That day was not the date. Months have passed since then. Just now they were recycling while acting as though nothing had been damaged. However, it wasn't. And I had no intention of returning. Not now. Tyler arrived to my workplace in the middle of April. Since the engagement dinner, I had not seen him in person. He appeared less put together and slimmer. Flip-flops, basketball shorts, and a hoodie. No appointment. Just entered the lobby and called my name. Saying, there's a guy here says he's your brother. My assistant buzzed my line. Send him up, I instructed her. Why I said yes is beyond me. Perhaps there was still a part of me that hoped he would arrive with some self-awareness, or at least a genuine apology. He didn't. Before he could say anything, he fell into a chair in my office and took out his phone, which displayed a photo of their flat, or what was formerly their apartment. The furniture was mostly gone. There are several crates on the ground. In the backdrop, Riley's conceit toppled. She went out. Packed up last night, he said, visited her parents' house, said that you turned everyone against us and that I was a loser. I remained silent. He simply continued, "Man, she took the dog. I had no idea they had a dog." Then he struck it at me. "You prevail." "All right, you achieved your goal. Everyone claims that without you, I am nothing." I nearly burst out laughing as if this were a contest, as though I had been chasing a deranged moment of fulfillment. I informed him that I had won nothing. I simply quit mending anything he damaged. He became enraged at that point, began to pace, said that I was acting aloof, claimed to be my brother, that I was different once. "When was the last time you showed me concern that wasn't based on money?" I asked him. Since he didn't respond, I continued. "Did you forget my birthday that year when you asked me to pay your tuition? Or when I worked through Christmas and you needed aid with rent but never phoned to check on me? Or was it the dinner when your fiancé made fun of me in front of everyone after I gave you a present that most people would cry over?" he continued. I sat down quietly, then softer. "Dad and Mom are going crazy. The house might have to be sold, they suggested." I gave a nod. "Never let that happen," they said. I didn't answer. "Are you really going to let them lose everything?" he said after giving me a long look. "They already did," I responded. He didn't say goodbye. My mother called that evening. I didn't respond. She texted me a picture of my childhood bedroom a few minutes later. Devoid of anything underneath it, it was empty. "By the end of the month, the message will be distributed. I hope you're content." I wasn't prepared for how hard that one hit. They still believed this to be about retaliation, not because they were relocating. I sat down, opened a bottle of wine, and gazed at the picture. I wasn't the reason they were losing the house. Because they had relied on someone they didn't respect for years, they were losing the house. Finally, the math caught up with them. That evening, I received another email. Subject line: "They are in a downward spiral." Not a message, another picture. Riley and her mother were fighting in a parking lot this time. Different day, different place. The person who sent these wasn't only observing, they were near. I typed a single word and hit respond. Who? No answer. Not quite yet. The response took 4 days to arrive. It was after midnight when the email arrived. This time just one sentence, no subject line. I knew that no one else would hold them responsible after witnessing what they did to you. No name yet. I spent a lot of time looking at that statement. It seemed like a confirmation that someone else had been paying close enough attention to comprehend somewhere in the chaos of it all, not because I was afraid. I was unaware of their identities. Perhaps a family friend of Riley's. Someone who could work the wedding. Perhaps I didn't respond. I didn't have to. Already the harm was done. My parents had relocated into a rental 30 minutes away, I discovered a week later. No yard smaller home. No guest room, please. My dad started working at a hardware shop part-time. For the first time in years, my mom had taken up bookkeeping for a friend's cleaning business. Once more, they were at work. Tyler returned to live with them. He had been formally abandoned by Riley. On social media, I came upon it. The new last name has been removed. Pictures were erased. She was laughing at a rooftop bar when her new lover was mentioned in an article. I had no sympathy for him. No more. He made another attempt to contact and left a voicemail that began, "I know I messed up," and concluded, "but I'm still your brother." I removed it. The last act followed. Riley's family held a modest, peaceful gathering, not a party for supper, apparently to make things more amicable. Tyler and my parents were invited. Emily messaged me, even though I wasn't invited. "They're still attempting to harm your reputation, just so you know." However, my father shut it down. I bluntly told them that the events during the engagement dinner were abhorrent, claimed to have embarrassed themselves. "Not you," Mom concurred. Tyler left. "You're not the villain," she added. Who was that message? As we all saw, that was all. Because I had lost the truth, even if I had lost my own family. My mother phoned once again a week later. I gazed at her phone number for a moment before saying no. After that, she texted, "The health of your father is deteriorating. We're not requesting funds. Don't let this last forever, though." Since I had spent years trying to make it transitory to be the greater person to be the fixer, I didn't reply. The safe choice is the pocketbook. When I gave them everything, they decided to make fun of me. They were positioned behind Riley. They then took a position behind Tyler. They never once stood behind me, but they did stand behind each other. The stillness they deserved was all that was left now. And it was finally enough for once. I continue to work too much. It's been 3 years since I last went on vacation, but I'm quieter and more composed. My phone no longer buzzes. No one is requesting favors. I've begun dating someone. She is aware of the tale. Everything, she said. You seem to have lost a significant item. No, I told her. I lost a slight sensation. She grinned, and I did too for the first time in a long time. Again, hello, I haven't shared the tale about my brother Riley's ordeal and the chaos surrounding their wedding for a while. I assumed that everything had calmed down, and to be honest, it had. But last week, an odd thing occurred. A check arrived in the mail. No address for return, not a word. A simple envelope. One of those off-white cheap ones you buy in large quantities. I found an $8 $200 cashier's check made out to myself inside. That's right. I initially believed it to be an error or a hoax. I've received strange payments from clients previously, but never in this manner. The calligraphy on the letter seemed unfamiliar to me as well. Appeared hurried, all caps. I nearly threw it out, but then I saw the strange number, 8,200. Not 8,500, not 8,000, specific to, particular, to be arbitrary. So I began to reflect. That's when I thought of the wedding location. It was a $5,000 deposit that I made. The cost of the photographer was $2,000, the additional $1,200. I handed them a check for whatever you need to get started, and that was part of it. They never reimbursed me. Even the fact that I took it back was never recognized. Not once. Therefore, either someone made the decision to put things right, or someone was attempting to cleanse their conscience. No trace, no bank information. I inquired about the origin by calling the bank that was mentioned on the check. They claimed to have paid cash for it at a nearby branch. All they could tell me was that. It wasn't Tyler, in my opinion. I would have received 10 more texts by now pleading for more if he had that much money. Nor do I believe it was my parents. I haven't heard from them in weeks, and they are still scraping and renting. However, I have a hypothesis. Emily. She's been silent. She was the only one who knew every detail, but I didn't ask. The receipts were only seen by one person, the only person to message me on the evening of the meal to let me know that they were failing without your money. She would have been fully aware of my loss. I'm not going to cash the check. Not quite yet. You can find it in a drawer. Because money isn't the point here. No more. It has to do with the fact that someone somewhere determined I should be compensated, even though those who ought to have done it first found out too late.